Hello, welcome to the Rosa Live. Um, and this is where we will be talking about Kenyan football in reference to the development of football in Tanzania in the recent past. And we know very well that before this started in Tanzania, Kenya was already making such significant steps between 2010 and lately 2016 and late 2016, sorry. And that's the time we saw Kenyan Premier League welcoming a lot of foreign players in our various clubs. That is when we saw Gor Mahia bringing the likes of Baba Kizito, Dani Serenkuma, Walusimbi, Nzigimana, Sibomana. We had great players from Rwanda, especially, and Uganda and Burundi. We saw some players also from Uganda playing for FC Leopard, people like Musa Mude. They had don't get me wrong, but I'm not a FC Leopard fan, but I'll try to remember a few. They had also this guy who was the defender Nahimana, and they also had. I remember I was putting Jersey 40 with a very nice mohawk. I think I've forgotten the name. He was a striker. We saw players playing, coming to the league, and other than those two major clubs I've mentioned, we also saw people coming to play for Tusker. That's where Ali Daucho came and he won the Kenya Premier League with them, and later he moved to Gor Mahia, and a few more, or rather many more, that I cannot manage to mention. Had I noted their name down, maybe I would have done. But anyway, then we went through that phase when the Premier League was very entertaining. We also had some very talented local players, the likes of Michael Olunga, Teddy Akumu, Kevin Omondi. We had Imbalambala. It's a pity, but I will not go deep into that. We had the likes of the former Sofapaka captain Situma, mm, Okoth, the great midfielder, and the likes. And we saw a real dominance of football in the region. That's when Gor Mahia even played the knockout of the CAF, when we finally had the likes of Tuisenge. And Gor Mahia brought in several good coaches who made their name, as it normally happens anyway, but we can do nothing about it. And even Dennis the Menace, that's the time he decided even to come and entertain us for one last time before he could finally retire with the great mighty Kogalo. Among other clubs that were also there back then, we had the likes of Sony Sugar, the former champion of the Kenya Premier League, who are now officially the fallen heroes, or let's say the sleeping giants. And it's been a serious testament between then and now, how things have changed, and how things escalated very fast, especially for the worst. I am not going to say that the then leadership of football we had was very good, super good. But again, the little they did, the little they tried, we have to appreciate anyway. But again, after that, we ushered in a new era of the great man currently handling the Kenyan football. When he came in, he found Kenyan Premier League had already made some serious steps. So that's when even Super Sport came in, and a few investors, so to say, who came in to, you know, to sponsor the Premier League. But without enough knowledge that of whatever happened that made these people to walk out, I don't want to go into that, because one thing is to speculate, which it is my position as at now. But another thing is to have the factual evidence, which I cannot produce. But at the end of the day, you will see the final repercussions or the final consequences, and one of them is they walked out, which all of us saw. And it is true that Supersport, they don't air Kenya Premier League football anymore, like they used to do a few years ago. And we saw during this time such kind of development, you know, it encouraged a lot of foreign players who came in, and it made the Premier League entertaining, the Kenyan Premier League entertaining. And I'm sure even through that, when the likes of Kagere and Tuisenge and, the other people came with their salary, which I'm very sure was up there, a few local raised players who are also performing on their level, for sure, their payment or their salary must have been somewhere reasonable up there with them. But after all these, it's very hard these days even to predict the highest paid player in Kenya. Maybe unless you Google and try to, find out even with a few former players. But without going much into that, the reason why I've brought this brief story, about Kenyan Premier League, how it was kind of developing and progressing, then after that it was followed by a sudden collapse, is in the reason, like the past, let me say, past 5 years, up to from the last 5 years, Tanzanian Premier League has really made a tremendous step towards the professional development of football handling in its entire scope. And that's why you see a lot of players all over Africa, not only from Congo, who are, I think, are the dominant foreigners in the Tanzanian Premier League, but all over Africa, you see players from South Africa coming to play in the Tanzanian Premier League now. The great Wananchi Yanga, they now have Skudu there, Makudubela. You see players like Pacome coming all the way from Ivory Coast to come and play in the same league. Okay, and a few more. We have Duke Abuya, who is trading uh, his game in Tanzania, formerly of Singida, now at Ihefu. I think they changed the name to Singida Black Stars, if I'm not wrong. Okay, we have people like Joash Onyango there now. We have people like Khalida Ucho. We have people like Digi Diara, from all the way from Mali. We have people like Aziz Ki, the big machine from Bukinabe, coming to Tanzanian Premier League to play there, which is not a sin anyway. It's not wrong. It's not criminal. If the development has taken it to that level, then you can attract as many as you want from different parts of the world. Anyone is allowed to do that. And that's why, see, even in South Africa, they can now attract players all over South America. They have the likes of Cirino, I think, from Cirino. I'm not very sure the country comes from. They have the likes of this guy who even did trial at Allende from Uruguay, if I'm not wrong. He even had his trial at Arsenal, but he failed, of course. But once you fail, you have to find a place where you can survive. So you see, the development of Tanzanian football is sharply quick and focused, in that it's soon going to catch up with. It might not catch up fully with the South African Premier League, but you see them, the match they have made in terms of progress. It is something that you cannot deny. So in this regard, I will try to bring about one club that has attracted a lot of my attention in respect to other clubs that are also doing well in terms of club management. Clubs like Azam, that is really doing well in terms of taking care of their players' welfare. Clubs like Simba, that are also really doing good. I think Singida is doing well because I normally see one of their players when they are the season concludes or when they have breaks. Duke Abuya, we always interact. Okay, so you look at how the Tanzanian Premier League has really developed. Then you ask yourself, why not Kenya? Why not Kenya? Because you look at Gor Mahia, for example. That's a club that has won even a continental trophy. It's a fact, can't deny. I'm not sure if there's a Tanzanian club that has done that before. But again, you look at what is happening now in the Tanzanian football, then you're like, come on. If Gor Mahia, during the time of Moi, which I have a feeling I was not lucky to witness them physically, but I have a feeling was so much attached to the football growth of this country. No wonder I see maybe most of the stadiums are after his name, probably being the only one who built them. Why is it that everything that we made went just like that and disappeared? And even now, even if Gor Mahia is still dominating this league, but I would say it is almost a useless dominance because you dominate here locally. But again, when you leave your comfort zone, you go outside there for a proper hard exposure, then you know how we are normally dealt with. But again, you look at how Tanzanian Premier League of late these days, they even take part in the continental football. Okay, they have become a force to reckon. Like Yanga in the past 2 years, they have performed very well. We'll remember that last season Yanga played the final of a continental cup. Okay, I think it's the Chan. Okay, and this season Yanga almost qualified for the semi-final of Chan, rather CAF Champions League. Besides the controversies of the second return leg, even if you remember very well how Yanga played in both fixtures, at home and away, then you're like, wow. Remember they had some injuries of their major players who of the starting 11. You saw Simba when they had their match at home in Dar es Salaam. They played, even if they lost, but they lost playing and fighting for the flag of the Tanzanian people. Okay? So we look at this development and we know very well that Azam must be working hard to also attain that position, to make it more competitive. Okay? I'm sure maybe Singida is also working hard to be counted one time in the continental space, and many other clubs there. So you see, Tanzanian football is already on another level, yet here in Kenyan Premier League, here in Kenya, our clubs, most of our players, majority of them still languish. They still languish in frustration, so to say. Majority of the players, some of them, they can even lack money to go for training. Yet we want to qualify for the AFCON almost every year. I hope and believe that if the current CS Honorable Ababu Namwamba is really working on the structures beside trying to improve the stadium and what have you, one of the areas that the Kenyan football ought to bring to their serious attention is working on the football welfare and motivation, the players' welfare and motivation based on their habitation, based on their health insurance cover, based on their salary, and based on any other remuneration that will make them feel motivated to make it entertaining, to make it even more rolling in a way that every year we could send one or two players outside there for more exposure and a better life standard and a better football standard, so that maybe hopefully in the, I'm not sure, 2027 maybe, but hopefully when we will host the AFCON, we could have some players that can parade themselves and really make the Kenyan football fans happy. Otherwise, we will be mauled 4-0 like Ivory Coast faced it. Thank goodness they find, through that defeat, they found their ways to come back and win the tournament. But I don't think the moment we are beaten that with that margin here, the way I know our Kenyan fans, I don't think the national team will recover from that kind of beating. I don't think, much as it is possible anyway. You cannot rule it out. But anyway, you look at uh, you look at how Tanzanian football has developed. We really have to answer some questions, because imagine Tanzania this year, they had two clubs that represented the nation in the CAF Champions League, and their performance was of high standard, despite both of them getting knocked out of this tournament. Simba lost 1-0 in Dar es Salaam, and then they lost 2-0 in Egypt. You know how many goals Kenyan teams have been collecting there whenever they go in the North Africa. Okay, Yanga managed a 0-0 in both legs. Besides the controversy, which I don't want to delve so much into that, because the opinion I hold for that controversy, I don't want it to impact the rest unless you decide to share the same feeling with me. So, but you saw how all of us who watched that game saw how Yanga performed. Um, when you see one of the things that is making clubs like Yanga to do that good, you look at the manner in which engineer Hersey is handling that club. The guy is so committed. I'm not sure whether he's still practicing his profession. I'm not sure. Maybe he's practicing. But you look at the amount of energy, commitment, dedication Bwana Hersey has dedicated for Yanga, then you're like, wow, this is what it's supposed to be. One thing that touched me recently is when they went to play their second leg down in South Africa, and I saw him. He was already launching the fan base of Yanga in the territory of their immediate opponent, and it was a very successful, you know, a very successful ceremony. And through that, I came to realize that Yanga is having other fans all over the world. That is Europe, America, Africa, the rest of the world. And some of them are so committed in that there is some significant amount of contribution that they channel through their, you know, different efforts to sustain the club. So through that, we come to realize that when a club is having a strong fan base that is sharing the same feeling of love for the club, right from up there based on social status up to down here, then the club is likely not to suffer financial issues. Again, you look at how Tanzanian Premier League these days is awarding their players of the match. Then you're like, imagine here in Kenya, every weekend, players, all the players are aware that if I become a man of the match, I will receive 25,000 Kenyan shillings. Because that's what they do in their Premier League. There, they give them half a million Tanzanian shilling. Why can that happen here? But again, you ask yourself, that is probably the salary of majority, or even below, something below that is the salary of majority of players. But again, God forbid, even if you put it, man of the match award just 10,000. Imagine after 90 minutes you have your 10,000. How much do you think those players are going to be motivated to perform? Everyone will be grinding the best you can so that at least in one game during the season you emerge man of the match besides the victory for the whole team. Okay, now come back again to Yanga. I've noticed that Yanga, I think I have two jerseys of Yanga. Sorry, I'm going to surprise you guys. Yanga is now bearing, you know, names of two companies. If you look at the back, there is some electronic company at the back. Okay, then at the front there is Sport Pesa. Then it is through these kind of things that a club can sustain itself despite the heavy fixtures in terms of traveling. That's why I'm not surprised Younger traveled all the way. I think they had a fixture in West Africa. They had a fixture a fixture in South Africa, and the other parts of Africa. Again, they had some heavy fixtures in Tanzania. But if you notice, if you follow Younger to be specific, I've noticed in all their long journeys, younger players are going by air. Besides going by air, you look at them, you're like, these people, they are well paid. You can always know if a player is well paid or not. We know players who are being paid and players who are not paid, or players who are, they survive based on some. It could be called a salary, but in a way, it's a kind of a token. Okay, so the moment you have already snapped an electronic company that is recognized almost globally, I think, and again, you have snapped a sponsorship of a well-known betting company that is making a lot of money. And again, I think Yanga has been in partnership with a few banks in Tanzania. I think I saw some. There is one I saw they made an agreement. I can't just remember which name of the bank. So there's a lot of arrangement based on how to sustain the club going on secretly. But you can only see the result of this kind of arrangements and meetings when it comes to how the club is running smoothly. So it comes to this one brings a question that why can't clubs like Gor Mahia, why can't a club like AFC Leopard, why can't a club like Tusker FC, why can't a club like KCB, why can't a club like Sony Sugar? I still believe they can come back because, by the way, that is a club from my home region. Okay, why can't a club like Kakamega Homeboys, Moroni Sugar, that is always ailing and ailing? Why can't a club like Sofapaka and the rest of other clubs. Why can't a club like Shabana? I must mention Shabana because Shabana is a community club, and when you talk of community clubs in the history of football, they are the most dominant clubs, and they're the most they're the strongest clubs. Why can't these clubs try to borrow from Tanzania? You don't need to go far, like you cross to to Europe, to South America. Why can't these clubs, the club chairpersons of these clubs I've mentioned, and the rest that I didn't mention, why can't they find a way to try to make a kind of find a way that they can engage this kind of this kind of companies, this kind of potential investors to come and invest in these teams, and hopefully they could find a way of even making some agreement of protection with the government, so that even if these investors come to put their energy in their various clubs, it doesn't matter, their protection is assured. I think we have a sober precedent. If you bring an idea to table and you present it correctly, and we see the bigger picture of its outcome based on the progress of Kenyan football, I don't think President Ruto will really frustrate that kind of an idea with the help of the current sports minister, whom I believe is a very brilliant brain. Why can't we just find a way before we start even, dreaming so big in terms of, we want to go to a World Cup, we want to win AFCON? I don't think we will come near that. Maybe a miracle could do it. I don't know how, the amount of miracle we need, but for us to make it practical and realistic, we need to strategize correctly. We need to we need to reorganize our thinking as a nation, as a footballing family of this country. For those of us who would love to see that progress, and try to find a way that we can engage the government and engage the private potential investors who could come and help us. I can see now that we are training a lot of coaches, which is not bad. But these coaches, we train them. Which clubs are they going to train? Or which clubs will they coach? Because even a coach, he will need his livelihood. As a coach, if I train to be a coach, I will employ all my energy into that club that I shall have committed my signature. But how am I going to be fully committed there if I must look for an alternative to come and feed my family besides me training a club? So will it be just you know a way of passing time to make yourself happy without generating something, or generating some income to sustain myself? So I think we are trying to do a few one two, which is okay, and we have to appreciate where it deserves. But again, we need to ask ourselves such questions that, much as we do this, how are we going to maintain these people to be remain relevant in these categories that they want to achieve? You give me a CAF D or a CAF C or a CAF B as a coach, whether goalkeeping coach, whether the general coach or a fitness coach, but I don't have where to coach. Maybe I'm just going to have it to coach my village team, which is okay, giving back to the community. But normally, when you're giving back to the community, you must have benefited from somewhere. We need to put these structures and copy what is currently happening in these Tanzanian clubs. I'm not saying that I'm so sure of what is happening in the grassroots of Tanzanian football, but again, from what I'm seeing in their bigger clubs, a club like Tusker, they are normally sponsored by the Kenya breweries, which is fine, but does not mean that it's only that company that must sponsor Tusker. Same to KCB. You don't have to be sponsored only by the bank. Now, Kenya Police, for example, and Ulinzi Stars, you don't have to be only sponsored by the the, 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 the disciplined forces. These people can still engage other stakeholders. If I'm not wrong, I think that's the correct word. They can still engage other stakeholders who could be interested. So let's say if the military or KDF, so to say, let's say if they spend maybe 10 million annually on the team, why not? They could even find another stakeholder, maybe even a foreign stakeholder, who could pump another 10 million or 15 million to the same club. You want to tell me that club will not perform? A club like Bandari could even do partnership with another shipping company in a developed country to support this club. Who knows? So I've been reflecting on Tanzanian football development, and it has been a serious touching phase when you think about home now, what is happening back at home. Okay. And another thing, I think, selling of the club face. How do we sell the faces of our club? Do we have some serious influential bloggers? Again, I will use two clubs here. You saw when Haji Manara was the blogger of Simba before he crossed to Yanga. Simba was seriously dominating that league. Immediately crossed to Yanga, we know what is now happening. I think since then, Yanga has been winning the Premier League. Why do I talk of selling the club face or the faces of our clubs? If you present your idea in the best way, it will always appeal. And when you see how Haji Manara played part towards the growth of these two big clubs in Tanzania, two biggest clubs, so to say, in Tanzania, then you're like, what if Gor Mahia? What if AFC Leopard? What if Bandari? What if Tusker? What if Kakamega Homeboys? What if, you know, even Sony Sugar? What if these other clubs had correct approach to sell the faces of their clubs? Definitely, even these financiers will be aware, like, okay, so we could also sell the face of our company through Gor Mahia on their shirts. We could also sell our company and do our advertisement through the FC Leopard shirts. We could also do the same through the shirts of Tusker FC, maybe. Like I said, Tusker, for example, they could have Tusker in the front, like here with the Sport Pesa. And what is wrong with them if they had even OMS as electronic company on their back? If OMS is part of this club from behind, and then Tusker is part of them, being the mother club from front. Then you want to tell me the current player in Tusker who is earning, let me say, 150,000 cannot earn 350,000? You want to tell me that Tusker cannot, you know, kind of even sign serious foreign players who can make serious impact in Kenyan football? And through that, you will realize that even the local players will grow a lot. They will share their exposure based on the environments they come from, and that's how people football grows. We saw when we had Twisenge and the likes around. That's when Gor Mahia almost became a serious powerhouse. So I think that is another area that those who are running our football in Kenya, they really need to look into that, and hopefully they could find a way that it can work. And hmm, so I think there is one area that, again, Kenyan football might be partially sharing with Tanzania at the moment, but Tanzanian government could be doing better than Kenya. Why do I say so? When the younger entourage, especially their fans, travel down to South Africa by bus, besides the chairperson of Yanga family, that is Engineer Hersi, receiving those funds down there, one of the people who was there, I mean, was the Tanzanian ambassador to South Africa, or High Commissioner. Okay, and even arrangements for their well-being while they were down there, the Tanzanian government was seriously involved. And I asked myself that, what if we could also try to do the same at some point? Is Kenyan government able to reach that level that maybe if Gor Mahia is going to play maybe just here in Rwanda or even in Dar es Salaam, and our fans travel down there, of course, in that case, we must have serious registration of fans so that we can avoid, other eventualities. Can the Kenyan government feel responsible to involve themselves that much? So I'm not judging them from this kind of, but I'm just trying to throw a parting shot out there to the ministry of our republic, based on how we plan to handle, both our players, so to say, who will be going to represent our various clubs, and also the number 12, who will take their time to go out there, travel all the way to be with the players. So I think it will be nice to see if those who are directly involved are seeing, have noticed with some of us outside here, how football is really doing well at the moment in Tanzania. But again, besides that, we need to end all these squabbles that has been taking us back. Every now and then we try to make a step, but before we can settle for the next move, then another one. Now, after we just won that tournament in Malawi, which was a beautiful exposure and a very good outing for our players, and they did us proud. I must compliment them. That now it didn't last long, and I see now the High Court is already in problem again with the federation. And I think if there is some problem, it can be we can always find a solution and bring it to bed. In case the leadership is not doing it well, they also ought to be humble enough and accept the decision of the people, just like they humbly accepted the decision of the people when they were brought to office. Sometimes you can fail. Does not mean that it's the end of the road. You can go and re-energize yourself and come back. We have seen leaders who failed and they went back. They reflected on what went wrong and they came back in different capacities, including highest political offices. So I'm kindly requesting the current Football Federation leadership that if there is a feeling of total failure, it's not the end of the road. They can say, okay, we thought we could make it better, but sometimes these things happen. But if there is a place they can, manage to improve and save the boat, it's also my call to them that they can go back to the drawing board as soon as possible, as fast as they can, and save the whole situation, because it's embarrassing. It's shameful that every now and then our federation is in the corridors of court, and FIFA is also always out there looking at what is happening down there, and the moment they ban us, we have to take an time again when we are back to try to and chase again. Even our FIFA ranking progress, it remains there. We go down. So these things are not good, and they are not healthy for the development of our football. So with those many remarks, I we can hope we can finally, sooner or later, find solutions to these challenges and make the Kenyan football progress and entertain us even more in the near future. Hopefully, we'll be making more videos about football in Africa and the rest of the world, and specifically Kenya, Tanzania. And we hope to continue interacting more and more. And feel free to share your opinion, where you feel touched, where you feel you can improve also my perception towards some things, and that's how we will help each other. And a great thanks to those who will receive this video, and I hope we will share it and like it, and hopefully subscribe going forward so that we can grow together. Thank you and blessed time.